In our Porsche special today, Hendrik is in his element driving the Porsche 911 GT3 and meets two of its close cousins, the GT3 RS and the awesome GT3 Cup car. And we trace the history of the 911 from its humble origins in Germany way back in 1948. Porsche's 911 is a legend that just keeps evolving, more than 4 decades after the first 911 took to both street and track. There have been countless variants over the decades, but for the most committed of Porsche drivers, where every engine revolution, every squirm of a tire tread is meaningful, the car to have is the latest GT3 model.
There's probably a lot of people who think that I spend all my time at racetracks or on rally stages. Well, that's not quite true, but I must admit that I feel very much at home in the paddock, especially in the wonderful atmosphere of Zwartkops. What makes me even happier today is my business partner for the day. Ladies and gentlemen, the latest Porsche 911 GT3.
The latest GT3 carries the tag 997 series because that's the Porsche in-house production type number, and it's immediately identified from earlier models by its reversion to round headlights. The distinguishing GT3 feature is its rear wing, with reverse sweep end plates a notable GT3 feature. Special details abound, including exquisite 19-inch GT3 specific alloy wheels, deep air intakes in the nose spoiler, and a flared-out body over the rear wheel arches. The interior is uncompromisingly sporty, and this particular car more so as it's fitted with optional carbon fiber racing bucket seats. New for the 2007 GT3 is special instrumentation that includes warning lights when the red line is nearly reached. But for the rest, it's good old 911, practical for an everyday supercar, which is what it remains. Still the world's only supercar that is realistic to use on a day-to-day basis. But there's been some serious work done in the engine department too. The normally aspirated engine now produces turbo levels of power. 305 kilowatts at a sonorous 7,600 RPM and a maximum rev limit of 8,400. What makes the GT3 a driver's car though is that it remains a rear-wheel drive only machine, and thus it demands all of your attention all of the time.
So essentially this is a race car with all the frills, or at least some of them. The basic creature comforts are here, and this particular test car has some of the options that are more race specific, such as ceramic brakes and these carbon fiber seats, which I'm happy to say are height adjustable. If you have one of these, that is.
The GT3 is designed for the Porsche owner who likes to use his car for track days over the weekends instead of playing golf. The setup on this car is much stiffer than on a regular 911, and the power delivery makes it a demanding car, but one that you fall in love with all over again every time you drive it. This is the first GT3 to have active suspension adjustment. There are 2 settings, comfort for bumpy roads and sport for billiard table smooth racetracks. Sensors on the car adjust the damping accordingly if the road surface changes. Porsche is particularly proud of its aerodynamic package on this car, which generates massive downforce but very little drag. All this high tech is very real in the sense that Porsche knows many of its customers will use its full 310 km/h potential.
This is a demanding car, and I would go so far as to say that to get the best out of it, it is essential that you get some professional tuition, preferably at a racetrack. In that regard, in my view, there's nobody better for the job than Mr. Porsche himself here in South Africa, Toby Venter.
Toby Venter is not only the CEO of Porsche Centre, the South African distributors for Porsche, but a racing driver of world-class ability. During the past few years, he's competed overseas in the Porsche Asian Cup, driving a track version of the 911 GT3. He's currently the man to beat locally in Porsche Cup races.
Okay, and here he is. Toby Fenty himself. Toby, how are you?
Fine, and you?
Nice
Fine.
to see you here at Swartkops now.
Nice to see you too.
Thank you. You've got a new toy here.
We do indeed. This is the brand new 911 GT3 Cup car, which is based on the normal 911 GT3 and GT3 RS.
It looks very familiar to a car that I just happened to have had the last day or so. But first
really?
of all, tell me about this car. How does it actually differ from the normal road-going GT3?
It's essentially based on the road-going GT3, so everything that really is structurally or engine or gearbox is basically the same. However, they do have some improvements for racing. It's a pure racing car. We have this particular car run at the curtain raiser for all the Formula One Grand Prix in the form of the Super Cup series. And then they have different Carrera Cups for different countries. So it's a real racer, but based essentially 80% on the standard car.
I noticed there's a sequential gearbox, for instance.
This is the first Cup car that has a sequential box, which means you can do flat shift, you keep your foot flat, and then you can change without lifting off much faster.
What about the suspension, the brakes, all different?
The brakes are essentially the same as on the road car, with different pads, and no ABS is allowed, so that the driving skill comes more into it. Suspension is harder to cope with the slick tyres.
Okay, I'm not going to keep you longer. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much.
I do want to ask you, however, seeing that we are here, I have that car here. Won't you show me a little bit later on once you've done your thing?
That'll be my pleasure.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you very much.
Toby used our track time at Swartkops to get in some practice for an upcoming Porsche Cup race, and we were more than happy to film the man at work. It was time well spent, as a few days later he went out and broke the Kyalami lap record. The GT3 Cup Racer uses the same 3.6 litre normally aspirated engine, but interestingly there's no power increase. The speed, however, comes in the car's light weight, which is 260 kilograms lighter than the stock GT3. Obviously, the car is fully adjustable in terms of all vital suspension factors, such as caster, camber, toe-in, ride height, stiffness, and the anti-roll bars are also adjustable. The Cup car has no ABS brakes, in keeping with the emphasis on driver skill in racing. But it does come with onboard hydraulic lifts to facilitate quick wheel changes. The BBS wheels are of the center lock variety. The shell is lightweight steel, while the doors are carbon fiber, and many of the windows are plastic. But the FIA spec roll cage makes it amazingly strong in the event of a shunt. The cockpit is bare bones competition, but includes a vital Motec data recorder which gives the driver and his team all the vital functions of the car every time it ventures out onto the track. And that's the only place you'll find this Porsche, because it's not road legal in any respect, even though it's straight from the factory. For those who want to race but have the option of driving the car to the circuit, there's the GT3 RS. This car is a bit of an anomaly really, because it was built to homologate the car for race versions, and hence it has special bits not found in the GT3. These include a roll cage and a body that's slightly wider than the stock GT3 to accommodate wheels with a different offset for a wider track. The suspension is fully adjustable as to GT3 Cup spec, and the car has a 5mm longer wheelbase for greater high-speed stability. Talking of high-speed stability, it also has a full-on carbon fiber rear wing, and the car weighs in at 1,375 kilograms, some 20 kilograms lighter than the stock GT3, if you could ever consider a GT3 stock. What makes all Porsche 911s so fantastic is that they are evolutionary cars. Every model has direct development links to the previous model, and the basic rear-engine concept remains the same as it was in late 1963. In fact, the basic concept goes back even further than that. To understand the heritage of the Porsche 911, it's necessary to go back to the 1930s, when the first prototypes of the Volkswagen Beetle were being prepared for tests by the German government. This was the car that was designed to put Germany on wheels. It was commissioned by Adolf Hitler and designed by one of the automotive geniuses of the 20th century, Ferdinand Porsche. It's said that the first pre-war prototypes were first tested for 30,000 kilometers with government representatives on board. When there were no problems of any kind, the Nazi government ordered the test to be extended to 50,000 kilometers. And still, there were no problems. That original rear-engined, four-cylinder, bug-shaped car evolved into the Volkswagen, and more than 20 million were produced between 1946 and 1974, before Beetle production in Germany was halted and switched to the front-engined Golf. But the Porsche design heritage would live on. In 1948, Ferdinand Porsche's son, Ferry Porsche, produced the first car to bear the Porsche name, the 356. It was based closely on Volkswagen Beetle mechanicals, but improved in almost all respects. Its aerodynamic efficiency and fine handling soon made it a force to be reckoned with in sports car circles. Much of its aero know-how was gained from the pre-war Rome to Berlin streamliner designed by the original Ferdinand Porsche. This car is now seen as very much a part of the Porsche sports car heritage. The 356 was enormously successful, selling over 65,000 units. But it's said that as early as 1956, Porsche was already designing its successor, the 911. Launched in prototype form as the Porsche 901 at the Frankfurt Motor Show in 1963, the new car had obvious roots in the Porsche 356. But it was a step ahead of the game, featuring a horizontally opposed or flat six-cylinder design, air-cooled of course, and a 5-speed gearbox. It was 6 centimeters narrower than the bathtub-shaped 356 and had sharper lines. It also had disc brakes on all 4 wheels, and the first 2-liter version produced 130 horsepower or 97 kilowatts. The name of the Type 901 became the subject of a lawsuit from Peugeot, the French automaker, which had registered patents on any model name with the middle numeral 0 but pronounced as an O. So the name of the new Porsche was changed to 911. The styling was the handiwork of Ferry Porsche's son, christened as Ferdinand but known as Butzi Porsche. And the engine was the handiwork of Porsche's nephew, Ferdinand Piëch, who would go on to revitalize the Volkswagen Audi group in the 1990s. The engine was good. The car could reach 100 kilometers per hour in second gear, 155 in third, 190 in fourth, and 205 in fifth gear, or just over 125 miles per hour. Early Porsche engineers at the company's Zuffenhausen headquarters in Stuttgart said the handling was excellent, but there would be those who begged to differ. The tail end, with all that engine weight hung out the rear, was fine if you knew what you were doing. But lift off the throttle in mid-corner and you normally exited the road in the direction of backwards. If Germany had been saddled with its own Ralph Nader at that stage, the American lawyer who killed the rear-engine Chevrolet Corvair with his book Unsafe at Any Speed, the 911 could well have disappeared into motoring myth and legend. Germans being Germans, however, the Porsche 911 was refined over the next 4 decades to produce a car that is, in fact, safe at any speed. And that includes the current turbo model's top speed in excess of 300 kilometers per hour. A big part of this engineering know-how was gained through motorsport competition. The Porsche 911 is probably the most successful competition car ever, and many of those successes have come at the hands of private Porsche customers. In 1968, the Porsche 911 scored the first of 3 historic victories in the Monte Carlo Rally, in the hands of legends like the British driver Vic Elford. Bjorn Valdegaard won the next 2 events. Meanwhile, Porsche 911s would achieve enormous success on the racetracks too. Derivatives went on to win the Le Mans 24-hour and the Daytona 24-hour outright, and also the World Sports Car Constructors' Championships in the 1970s and 1980s. The beauty of all this was that the flat six engine remained essentially the same from the day it was shown to the world in 1963 right up to today. It's to Porsche's credit that they've never really messed with the 911 formula. That sloping roofline and teardrop rear side window give it its unique signature. And then, of course, there's the engine. The flat six started off as a 2-litre air-cooled boxer motor, grew to 2.2 litres, 2.4, 2.7, 3 litres, 3.2, and finally 3.6 litres. In 1997, the biggest change came with the switch to water cooling. Yet it's said that Porsche engineers spent many months working on retaining a sound similar to the old air-cooled sound, as they were very aware of what made a Porsche special. This lineup includes cars in the original short wheelbase form, which were tricky little numbers to handle. The 911 really does need the environment of a racetrack to explore its limits. After the break, Hendra gets some valuable track tuition with Porsche Meister Toby Fenter.
I've left the traction control on, funny enough, because it doesn't interfere, just to show you how good it is. Brake hard.
Alright, coming into the hairpin now, into second gear.
Second gear.
Deep in.
I tend to try and not go too deep and then exit early. There's the gear shift light.
Notice that the oversteer is quite controllable.
Very controllable. Yeah, I'm quite surprised myself. It's very controllable. This is a very
That's a
intimidating
tricky
corner.
one.
The car feels magnificent through there.
To the hairpin again.
Balance the car and then nail it.
I've also noticed just on the road just how good the throttle response is.
It is fantastic. You can hear it. It's absolutely, this is a titanium Conrod engine and it is absolutely razor sharp.
Yeah.
This is nice. You can keep a nice line through here. Pushes the nose a little bit wide but very controllable, all with the throttle. So if you push the throttle or pushes the nose, let go of the throttle, it tucks in, so you can balance it nicely.
G-forces. Wonderful.
Doing 180 k's an hour up here. I didn't even realise it is so fast.
You think I can have a go?
What I like to do is it's almost like you're an athlete now, warming up. So first, warm yourself up slowly, familiarise yourself with everything, and then we'll build up to speed later. The nice thing about this car is, as a thoroughbred, the relationship you have with a car from the day you buy it unfolds. And it unfolds in a way that is so satisfying, because you might say to yourself, now the car is a bit intimidating, but as the relationship builds, so you learn, the car teaches you and you learn the car. The whole trick is slow in, fast out, as I said. So try and think of, do it in slow motion to start off with. So we go in, you must almost exaggerate your slowing down initially into the corners. Exaggerate your slowing down, and then so that you can get that feeling of going out a bit faster. So slow right down, that's it. And turn, and then get to power yourself out. And then look for your exit point there. Excellent. Short shift, it's fine. Because you don't want to be changing gears now.
Yes.
Concentrate on the sweep, hugging the inside here, and then running out to the outside now. Beautiful, that's lovely. Get into your gear before the corner. Perfect. Turn, Look for your apex. You've hit your apex, exit point you hit. Do the same in one movement. Smoothness is the key. Excellent. You've got it.
Hey, don't.
Driving like a champ.
Well, Toby, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you.
That was excellent.
Congratulations.
Fantastic experience.
Well done. And I think it's always an achievement that you brought the car home without a scratch.
Thank you very much. And somebody more famous than me used to say, I'll be back. Every Porsche is a special car, but the new GT3 takes things to the next level. This is a thoroughbred, a car that demands all your attention and respect. What's more, with this new GT3, the road of discovery will be a long and rewarding one, not only regarding the car, but also yourself.
Win a Hyundai Elantra worth 180,000 Rand. Entry forms are on the Cartel website and in the latest edition of Car Magazine. And we're giving away 3 subscriptions to Car Magazine every week. SMS the word CAR to 33770. Winners will be announced next week just before Car Talk. What happens when you take 3 hot hatches and a Ferrari racing driver to the track? Watch next week to find out when the Peugeot 207 GTI, the Seat Leon FR and the Mazda 3 MPS go head-to-head with racing ace Oscar de Oliveira at the wheel.